Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two cousins who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Monica.
And this is usually like, I just immediately dive into the episode, but we're trying to be people on this podcast and not robots and have you guys kind of get to know us a little bit as we're going. So we're in chat for a minute. We want to give a shout out to our new collection of fans that we recently discovered we have. YouTube does this really cool thing where it tells you what keywords were used to search for your video. And we had an episode 2 weeks ago called "Oh God, I Have to Sneeze," because we were both our allergies were not our friends for that episode. And apparently there is a sneeze fetish community on YouTube, which I was unaware of. And they made that video our second most watched video after 6 days. The only one more watched was our very first video. We had 70 plays in the first 6 days when we only have 18 subscribers. All because apparently people wanted to watch us sneeze.
And I want to say, if I can't remember the screen name, but the gentleman who said "bless you" to me, because apparently my poor little nose looked like I had to sneeze the whole episode. I greatly appreciate the concern. I greatly appreciate the concern.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to feel.
So, how was your week this week, Monica?
You know, it was another COVID week for me, a whole lot of doing nothing, a whole lot of working on some secret stuff that you know about. And just doing me, having a weird time, having a fun time. I feel like my life's been a fever dream, not only for the past week, but for the past 20 years. So
it's so weird. It's so weird sometimes remembering that America is still not a functioning place. Because
you guys are doing just fine.
We're pretty much back up and running completely. International travel is still a big NO, but
which is understandable because if anyone
for sure, because why would we want anyone who's doing terribly to come into our country when we're doing so well? Yeah. But yeah, I had a pretty intense week of teaching this week. We did some hands-on science experiments where I thought it would be a really good idea to try to teach the entire grade level at once instead of just my class, and I regret everything about it.
This is like the most fun predicament to be in.
75 students and throwing water bottles. That's just, I don't recommend it for anyone.
Real quick, Mary Kate, also for anyone who's actually watching this on YouTube, and the people who are listening, I'm going to fill you in on happening on my screen. I put my dog in a onesie. He doesn't like it, so he's going to be walking around a lot this video. It's just cold and he wants to cuddle, but I'm recording, so I'm not cuddling. If you can see by his face, he's kind of pissed by it.
He does not enjoy the onesie.
No, not at all.
My students have figured out that I do a podcast and really, really want to know what it is. But I teach third grade.
I don't think this show is really good for...
No, I think that the content is my issue, but I told them it was about scary movies, but some of them, one of my kids watched Bandersnatch, Black Mirror, with his dad and described to me the axe cutting scene that I clearly did not watch, and I go, cool. So the scary movie thing didn't really deter them, so I had to inform them that I cannot let them watch my YouTube channel because I say bad words and drink wine.
Say bad words and drink wine is, I think, our new mantra at this point.
Yeah.
See, I can't drink wine on the podcast episodes with them because I'm 20. Legally 20. And it also is knowing when we film on my time, it's 10 a.m. If I'm drinking wine at 10 a.m. I think there's a bigger issue to talk about.
Yeah, for me, it's 9 p.m. on a Saturday, and I'm almost 30, so I can do whatever the fuck I want.
And when Mary Kate comes back home from Thailand, the podcast will be a whole different situation because we can film at a time where we can both have a glass of wine and say bad words.
You still can't do it till you're 21.
You're right. I will be drinking grape juice while Mary Kate is drinking wine. For legal reasons, I will be drinking grape juice.
Yeah, so we've had a week. But luckily, the episode this week is actually worth talking about.
Yeah, it's not terrible. There were a few low points in the beginning where it was felt like it was dragging on just because we all watching this episode, I feel like everyone knew something big's happening in this episode because of one, what happened last week, and two, it talks about a full moon, and we all know what happens in Hemlock Grove when a full moon pops up into the sky.
Yeah, so this episode is season 1, episode 10, What God Wants. Which I have problems with. I understand why it's the episode title. Jesser's mantra has obviously been fairly prevalent in the episode, or in the season so far. But as I've made very clear, my idea of God and Jesser's idea of God don't really go together very well.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So it premiered on April 19th, 2013, as did the rest of the season. And it was directed by TJ Scott and written by Daniel Page. TJ Scott was actually nominated for a Gemini Award in 2010, which the Gemini Awards are like the Canadian version of the Emmys, for a movie called Deadliest Sea, which was like a television dramatization of like the Deadliest Catch kind of like thing, like The Job, the crazy ice fishing stuff. So he was nominated for a Gemini Award for that, for directing, and he kind of like got his big breakthrough into television in the 2010s. He worked on Spartacus, Black Sails. He won an award, but I can't remember which award, for an episode of Orphan Black. Which, speaking of Orphan Black, did you see that Tatiana Maslany is going to be playing She-Hulk in the Marvel Universe?
Speaking of Marvel Universe and people playing them, did you hear that Harry Styles is playing Thanos' brother, most likely?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one. I was really excited about the other one. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, like the other one, that's honestly really dope. But
okay, time out. Just because I want there to be evidence of this somewhere, because I've talked about this before. I tweeted like 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago that I thought there should be a TV show where Loki is like Doctor Who, and he goes back into different periods of time and like just messes shit up. Do you know what the plot of the Loki TV show is?
Exactly that.
Where is my money?
Where is my
I'm
there was
so
like
mad about it.
they were scrolling through like fan Twitters and like seeing what was talking about, and like, you know what? This one really seems like it's it. But yeah, apparently Harry Styles is. I can't remember if Thanos is like Star Fox, I think is the name of the character that he's playing.
Star Fox, like from Star Fox Adventures on the Nintendo?
I don't.
That's an actual fox.
No, I don't think he's playing an actual fox. I can't remember who they said that he's playing. But you want to know what? If that's the case, they're gonna get all like. Because the thing, I feel like everyone's obsessed with Marvel because they have a lot of gorgeous men in that universe and women. Like, are we not gonna talk about Natasha?
Okay, it is only a rumor.
It's a rumor, but it better be a true rumor because I think I want to see it. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued.
But more recently, TJ Scott has been working on things like Gotham and Star Trek Discovery. So,
It's actually pretty cool. Gotham is honestly a really not. It's not a terrible show. I think I only watched like the
oh no,
first.
I really like Gotham actually, just like the direction that they took. And Star Trek Discovery, obviously, is the newest. I mean, Picard is newer, but it's a flashback. I don't know. Anyway, Star Trek Discovery is the newest of the Star Trek shows, and it's like been a pretty big deal with like LGBT representation in sci-fi and stuff like that. And like, so it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Daniel Page, the writer, wrote episode 6 of this season, The Crucible. So he is already been talked about. I don't remember if I said good things about him, but I remember I didn't love that episode.
Yeah. And I think this episode will really determine whether it falls on the director or the writer of the episode if there's an issue. I think and when we talk more in depth about the episode, I think the writer and the director of this episode really kind of went hand in hand. Everything kind of flowed pretty well.
I genuinely think that this episode, obviously we're going to keep talking about it, but I think this episode was pieced together the best of any episode. Like,
yes.
It started in a good place. It didn't leave us with like 3 weeks of missing information like some of the other weeks or episodes have. Bye, boo. And it.
Oh! I thought we were gonna get some booze.
But like the amount of time spent on each character and when it flashed and when it didn't, like, was really, really well done. The things that were left loose at the end, like, were not so much that you felt confused, but enough that you wanted to watch the next episode. Like, I think in a packaging sense, this has been the best episode so far. Not necessarily the best written or the best directed individually, but total package, this has been the best so far.
And me and Mary Kate, because we'll talk for a few minutes before we actually start recording in the morning, or for her at night.
Yeah.
There is I literally told her, I was like, well, when they were talking about this episode, they literally picked off right where the last scene ended. And like, so they do know how to do that and not make you completely and utterly confused in between episodes. They just said, screw you, literally every other time that it's happened.
Exactly. So our little blurb says, a weakened Roman emerges from his coma and reunites with Peter to stop the killer. Hemlock Grove braces itself for another lethal full moon.
Now, because this episode is so heavily, there is a lot of special effects in this episode. I will talk about the special effects makeup artists on where not in every episode, because sometimes it's just normal like face makeup to like.
Yeah, the thing is, this show has like really cool FX, but like it will go back and forth between which episodes use them, like honestly at all, and which episodes don't.
And so on this episode, we have the head makeup artist, which I believe his name is Howard Burge, or no, I think, I'm not sure if it's Burge or Berger. It could be Berger. I'm illiterate, so you got to work with me sometime. He has a pretty in the special.
Hey.
I was just like, Mary Kate disappeared.
Well, interestingly enough, because my Zoom is the one recording, that will probably not be there.
Do you want me to reread the?
Yeah. So the audio for me cut out. You said he has a pretty.
Okay. He has a pretty credible record for works that he's done for more so movies. The only TV show that I think would be honestly really credible that would honestly factor in with what we are watching He has done The Walking Dead. He's worked on 135 episodes of that show, which, in the grand scheme of things, not a lot compared to how many episodes of The Walking Dead there are.
Which, a yikes, but
insane. He's worked on 135 episodes of The Walking Dead in between 2010 and 2019. He also has done special effects for Oz the Great and Powerful, the Texas Chainsaw remake in 2013, The Final Destination in 2009, Scream 2 in 1997. He worked on Wes Craven's New Nightmare along with A Nightmare on Elm Street 5 and A Nightmare on Elm Street 4. He's worked on Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2. And quite possibly my most favorite, just because I have a soft spot for this whole horror movie franchise, even though it goes to garbage multiple times, is Halloween 5. So he has a pretty outstanding, especially children need to stop yelling outside my window. Did I ask?
They think you did.
I'm gonna. Anyway,
Hey, ignore them.
Sorry. So he has a pretty credible track record, especially in horror genre. So I think it was very, very good for him to be working on, especially this episode of Hemlock Grove, which is very special, FX heavy. And like again, also the ones that he's worked on, all practical effects in the movies I've never I love Scream 2. It's one of my favorites, along with the first. And in the Final Destination,
Oz the Great and Powerful is mostly
it's mostly digital.
It's mostly digital effects, but the practical effects that they do use are really beautiful.
They really, really are. So like he definitely did a good job with this. And there's also one scene that when we get to it, there's one part that I just think was really cool with how everything was done. And that's how I knew it was like, yes, this is practical. None of this is fake.
I honestly know exactly what moment you're talking about, and I can't handle it.
It's quite disturbing. It's very sad. It's a very upsetting part, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So now we're on to actually discussing the show.
So we start off, like Monica said, literally the second after last week's episode ended. So Letha has just left Peter alone with his feelings about ending their relationship, and he's just yelling in pain. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Roman just wakes up and is like, dude, what are you yelling about?
Yeah, Roman literally just sat up, looked around, like, what are you doing? Like, without missing a beat.
He's like, what time is it? And Peter goes, dude, you've been asleep for 2 weeks. And he's like, oh, shit.
Shit.
Yeah. And like, so, Roman, so like, Peter's like worried about him like trying to get up, and he's like, listen, like you've been in a coma, like they say that like your mind can be messed up, blah blah blah, like you might have memory things missing. And then we get a flash to Roman remembering how he went into a coma. Like he remembers doing the drugs, and he remembers Price attacking him. So like that, we don't need not more of a flashback to know that he does remember everything that happened pre-coma. And he's like, listen, like, I made a lot of mistakes. I did a lot of stuff. And, like, I don't know what comes next, but I know it has to be me fixing it.
Which was when we had that whole that one episode. Sadly, it was only one episode about his coma, like where his journey was in his coma.
Yeah.
Which he's trying to figure out the dragon, what this is. It's like this beast. And I think that Roman thinks he knows what it is from this, but I don't think he genuinely knows what the beast is. Because I think the beast also means whatever's actually out there killing him, but also obviously there's
I think he knows that there's something inside him. Like, I don't think he knows yet what an Upir is or what that means or what's going to happen to him, but he knows that he's a bigger piece of this puzzle than he wanted to be.
Exactly.
Um,
But I don't think Peter, from the conversation as this scene goes on, I don't think Peter understands that he understands now.
yeah.
But I also don't think Peter also understands everything that Roman, I think, is starting to understand also. Like, I think they're both missing pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So then they go and they're like, well, it's almost the full moon. We gotta like get the bar golf. And Peter's like, you can't come with me. I have to do this on my own. And Roman's like, not a chance. I'm coming with you. And so then they go downstairs and I wrote, good thing the car got fixed.
Yeah. Good thing Olivia was like, I need it in driving order today, even though my son is in a coma.
Which leads me to believe she knew.
Because also, she said
she says some things later that make me think that she knows a lot more
than what she says she
pretending to know. But I think she got the car when she did because she knew.
Yeah, because it's like she had said all last episode, it's not up to him when he dies. It's not up to him. It's up to me. So, like, I think she's known this whole time that, like, when Roman will be able to do certain things, because I think it might just be, like, an Upier thing. Like, it might not be just, like, an Olivia thing. Mm-hmm. It might be, like, an Upier thing where they can tell.
Yeah. Or whatever. I don't even know. I still don't even know what she is. I'm so...
True.
Yeah, then we go to Clementine, and she calls her brother. And she tells him she wants out, she can't do this anymore. She's gonna finish the job tonight, and then in the morning, she needs him to meet her on the rocks by the water so she can get out of the order. He's also apparently in the order, and he's like currently hunting something/one. And she's like, oh, you're at work. And he's like, no, I'm at a beach in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know.
That her brother's thing, like her whole story with her brother, kind of, I understand it, but it also confuses me in certain aspects, because it's like back in the very first episode, the first episode where Clementine is introduced to us.
Yeah.
She finds out that Michael's in town, but the priest that she's working aside says don't contact, like he hasn't tried to contact you, has he? Like almost like keeping an eye out to not get in contact with Michael.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure as to why, which made me sit there and think that, oh, maybe he's not part of this order anymore, and that's why. And then, but like he is part of the order, but he also like, I feel like he isn't, because why would she go to him if he was? Because normally they're like, it seems like they kind of brainwash you in that stuff, where if he was in the order, why would he help? But it also could be because, like, you know, her being family. We find out later that family kind of don't mean shit to them in a certain way.
But I think like last episode she said the thing about the weird spooky twin thing. I think the fact that they're brother and sister is not nearly as important as the fact that they're twins.
Yeah.
And especially like in supernatural type shows, twins tend to have
weird abilities,
mystical powers. Speaking of twins and weird abilities, this is going to be me apologizing for being a complete dumbass when it comes to the fact that I have said multiple times in this podcast that The Vampire Diaries is my favorite show ever, and I'm obsessed with it. And yet it has taken me 10 episodes to figure out that the reason Letha looked so freaking familiar to me was because she plays Liv Parker in seasons 5 and 6 of The Vampire Diaries. And Liv Parker is one of the Gemini twin, because she's part of the Gemini Coven, which is a coven of witches made up only of twins. And she, in that show, is a witch who's dating Tyler Lockwood, aka the most important werewolf on the show. So apparently, Penelope Mitchell just spends her whole career playing weird witch girls who date werewolves.
And the thing is, I only watched like the first 2 seasons of Vampire Diaries. So like, and when I was like 8 or 10 or whatever this show came out, so like I had no idea. I was just clueless. So good on you.
I will say the Gemini Coven stuff, I forgot a lot about a lot of it. So.
That's fair.
But
Understandable.
like, only kind of understandable. It was like 3 seasons of the show. I just.
Oh, well, if that's
Yeah.
3 seasons worth, then maybe that's not as understandable.
So judge me, please.
Send us your hate mail.
Please send us anything.
Yeah, send us any. Even if you say God bless you, I'll appreciate it.
So then we go back to Peter and Roman on their little joyride, which Peter's driving, which I guess makes sense because Roman was just in a coma for 2 weeks, so he should not be getting behind the wheel of a car. But yeah, and Peter stops the car, and Roman's like, "Why are we stopping?" And Peter's like, "Why are you coming with me?" And they have this whole conversation about how Roman's not doing this to be a hero. He doesn't care if people know he was a part of it. He just knows that he has to fix something.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I wrote, what did Roman find out in his coma? He's like on a whole new level right now.
But as we see, like, at this point when he wakes up, I don't even think he knows because all he describes it as a feeling.
Yeah, I don't think he knows, but obviously what we saw of his coma journey and what he did are not the same. Like, we only got a piece of the puzzle, and I think that's on purpose because the suspense of what he doesn't know is better storytelling than obviously showing us everything.
Yep.
But I want to know. Just like I'm still mad that they didn't show us what Project Ouroboros is.
Yeah. And I don't know if we'll ever see that because apparently Johan Price just doesn't want to ever exist in Hemlock Grove for the rest of the season, apparently. It's been like 4 episodes without.
Don't worry. So. He will definitely come back. And I only know this because Joel De La Fuente, who plays him, shares throwback memories of working on Hemlock Grove on Instagram a lot. And like, you wouldn't do that if you were only in 3 episodes.
Like, I had a feeling he's obviously gonna be more important because there's no way his like
right, like
only gonna be around for 3 episodes. There's just more important wolves to catch at the moment.
So then we go to school, and Letha and Shelly are walking through the hall, and Letha is being hashtag sad girl, and she's like, does it ever feel like we're not living our lives? We're just moving through them like shadow puppets.
See, then there's Letha trying to be cryptic, and she can't do that.
No, she just like says things as if she like read a really old translation of the Bible and is just trying to like, it like doesn't make sense.
The whole cryptic Godfrey trait did not get passed down to her. She was the skipped generation. She's the loner child. She's the black sheep.
I don't think the Godfrey part is where the cryptic part comes from.
Fair, but since most Godfreys are either hiding, their second life or the fact that there's some mystical being, a majority of the Godfreys are cryptic.
Olivia's children are messed up. That's the issue. It's not a Godfrey problem. Then we show Shelly is in her painting class, and Roman sneaks up to the window just to check on her and make sure she knows that he's alive and okay and that he's not going to be home. But he's super smart and doesn't tell Shelly anything. Mm-hmm. Because I think he knows that the less she knows, the less Olivia can find out.
And probably the better for Shelly.
Yeah, for Shelly's sake, but also for Olivia's sake. If Shelly doesn't know anything, Shelly can't lie to her mom and get in trouble for lying. but also Shelley doesn't have to worry.
I love that scene so much. He's like so
too.
with her.
I just wrote, I love it. But I think it was really sweet at the very end when he was leaving. She said, "Be good." And he said, "That's kind of the idea." Like, so he knows he's trying to do the right thing. He doesn't know what that means yet, but that's what he's doing.
Oh, and Shelly was so excited. She was like, it's like happy Shelly noises because all she knows how to make is just like weird grunting noises.
Yeah. Then it is a new, well, it's kind of like a weird dual scene where like they're showing the news reporter talking to Tom, but then also they're showing Peter listening to the news report on the radio in the car. But the news reporter is basically like, do you think that what's going on is really a rabid animal, or do you think it's this was my favorite, the most logical thing anyone said, a serial killer mimicking a werewolf? Not a werewolf.
Mimicking.
Yeah.
That's the key word. You're the only sane one in Hemlock, along with Norman.
Right. And
everyone else, cuckoo.
Tom says the coroner reports state that it definitely is an animal attack, but the pattern is not something that can be ignored. So they are putting the whole town on a curfew for that night. All minors need to be in their house by sundown, and any adults who are outside better have a damn good reason for being outside. We go back to the Godfrey house where Olivia finds the empty bed, and she is like kind of wandering around the room trying to figure out what's going on. She looks out the window and sees the full moon and puts 2 and 2 together, and she's just like, that little shit.
But in all honesty, thank God for Olivia going, you little shit, because later on it will be greatly appreciated.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah. Then the priest calls Clementine just to make sure she's like getting herself ready. It's werewolf night. She's got to do her job. And I wrote, Michael's a little snitch. Because her twin brother, who supposedly got her back, called the priest, who somehow makes himself even sketchier in that phone call than he has in the previous 9 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Not a fan. Yeah, I just wrote, he just gets sketchier every time he shows up.
Yeah, because I feel like whenever he's in play, I feel like it's showing some more cryptic or more uncomfortable side of this organization.
I almost feel, and this kind of gives a little bit of a spoiler for a later scene, but I don't care because the order of this scene is not important. Because later in the episode, and we kind of alluded to this earlier, later in the episode there is a flashback to Michael and Clementine talking on this place in the rocks where they're supposed to meet in the morning. And they're talking about being in the order and what it's done for them, and her getting sober and their dad dying. And she's like, she asks Michael if he killed him, and he was like, no, I didn't. Like, with somebody who lives like that, it's better to watch them do it to themselves. So basically their dad was a really not good person. Whatever he was not a good person. And the way the priest talks to her, combined with like the trauma that I think her dad gave her and like her addiction problems, I genuinely feel like she has like Stockholm syndrome with the order. Like, I don't think that this is like a conscious choice. Like, I think that's why she's struggling so much, is because it's stressing me out.
Because I feel like she's trying to, I think being in Hemlock she's finally starting to understand and realize things, and maybe understanding that her perception of God isn't the right perception of God for the order that she's in. So like, and that's where I think she's getting tripped up, is because I don't know if her Stockholm syndrome is with the order or with her religion, because I feel like
But
she wants
I think that in her mind, what the order says about religion and religion are synonymous. Like it's not like she has a relationship with God outside of what the order has told her.
Yeah. And that honestly, that's kind of where I was getting at, but I also take too long to get to where the end of my destination, because I'm trying to process things. But that's honestly probably what it most likely is. She's confusing her ideas with God and the order, and thinking that if she leaves the order, she's leaving God.
Yes.
Which she doesn't have to do.
Right. So, but that, and then, so she gets off the phone and then she goes to talk to Tom, who is like setting up all of the cops and where they're going to be on patrol for the curfew and the whatnot tonight. And he kind of like is done with her. He's like, listen, I've given you every chance I have, but like today's not the day. Like, don't push your luck today. And she's like, in my line of work, we have this thing called the Umwelt, which is a model of the world based on basically like animal behaviors, like what is the most natural course for something to do. And she's like, what is the most natural course for you to do? Like, trust your gut, trust what you should. And she said, don't let numbers confuse you for safety. Trust your gut. You have more to lose than anyone here.
Mm-hmm. Dun, 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 dun.
Basically, she tells him like, stay at home. Like, don't do this. Don't worry about the whole town. You've got girls at home. Stay with them.
Yeah. Worry about your family, because like, especially
basically like, that's what everybody else is doing. Everybody else who has a daughter is sitting at home with their daughter. Like, don't be the one who doesn't put your kid first. Then we get a scene with Christina in the mental hospital talking to Norman, and he's like, hey, like, do you feel safe here, or would you rather like I take you home to stay with your parents tonight? And she's like, no, it's fine, I want to be here, but I don't want to be on this dose of my meds anymore. Like, I want my meds down. And he was like, well, why? Just like, what is your reasoning? Like, not like, why do you want that? Like, but like trying to understand what she's feeling. And she's like, I just feel like something's being blocked. And he was like, okay, well, like, that's something we can talk about. And like, totally normal patient doctor conversation. And then she goes on some weird tangent about how she used to love swimming in the lake under the full moon. It was the most beautiful thing in the world, and now it's so scary. And then, like, do you believe in magic? And all this, like, nonsense.
If anyone else in the town were to hear her talk like this, would they all still believe that Peter Romancic's a freaking werewolf?
So Tom comes to check on Christina before he goes home, and he and Norman are just having like some normal dad dude conversations.
Bro talk.
And like Norman's like, I feel like I've succumbed to the like town hysteria by putting extra guards at the hospital. And he's like, and Tom says there's a difference between irrational and baseless, and there's nothing baseless about this. And I thought that was a really nice quote, because like, yes, how they're behaving is totally irrational. Mm-hmm. It doesn't logically make sense, but you can act against logic and still be correct if there's a basis for it. And in this case, as irrational as it is to act like there's a werewolf running around, there's a reason to act that way. And so Tom was like, yes, we all sound crazy, but if it saves another girl from getting murdered, we're going to be as crazy every month on the full moon as we have to be.
Yeah.
And then he's like, tomorrow I'm going to need somebody to buy me a beer. And Norma's like, got you. And then they both go home. Then we go back to the Godfrey house, and Shelly gets home from school and finds Olivia sitting in the empty room. And Olivia's like, do you know where he is? And Shelly's like, no. She doesn't say no. She shakes her head. And Olivia says, like, the best thing about, she says, the one good thing about your inability to speak is that you're also not able to lie to me, which is totally not true. Shelly could definitely lie to her mom. But
She can lie to her mom easier than people who can talk because
right,
all she has to do is either this or this
right.
or this.
But then Olivia gives this really intense speech. And I wrote, holy cryptic Batman, this is amazing. And I can't find it. I was looking for it on the quote page on IMDb earlier, and it's not there. But basically, she has this whole thing. I really wish I had the words. I hate that I didn't. I didn't write it down because it was too long to write the whole thing down.
Yeah.
But she's talking about how she knew this was going to happen. This was always what was going to happen. Talking about like hundreds of generations of pieces in the game that is life on this board. This is always where he was going to move. And the most painful thing is knowing that because you've done your job correctly, you're not needed anymore. And it was like the whole thing that what her and Linda were talking about last week about being a mom and knowing that they are your whole world, but you're not theirs. And she's like, I did the best job I could by raising you, and that's why you don't need me. But that's also the most painful thing anyone could ever do to me.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful and like so real and raw. Only it was Olivia. So instead of being real and raw, it was like
Cryptic and mysterious.
didn't make any sense until I had to sit there and like listen to it again and like process it.
Yeah, when me and Em had talked about this morning, I was like, I knew what she said had meaning, but I'll be damned if I know what cryptic Godfrey means at this point. Like, I'm like, you take the reins
Yeah,
on.
so obviously she was talking about that, but also the way she was talking about like the way the board moves and the pieces moving on the board and everything, and like, and then something she says later in the episode, I think that Olivia is like 1 billion years old.
Oh, yeah, I do not think she is. I don't think she is. Clearly, by the way she speaks anyway, and how, like, the way she carries herself, self is how.
Maybe selves, maybe. We don't
Maybe.
know.
How she carries the way that she is seems like something from, like, Victorian times.
Like, no, like she's like 1 billion years old.
She ran around castles like in a flowy dress trying to find her forbidden lover in the garden. Like that was her aesthetic when she was a child. Like that's what she literally lived through. I have that I honestly can 100% agree with you on that. There is no way in hell that she is of modern time.
Well, I mean, and it goes back to what JR said in the coma scene about like, isn't it weird that we don't know anything about Olivia's family? Like,
because she's dead and she's the only one that's alive.
I don't even think she's human. Like, I think she's literally like, I think she was. Have you ever seen the movie Stardust?
No.
Oh my God, definitely need to watch that movie. It's amazing. But basically, there's this girl who is stardust and she falls to the earth and like has to live as a person, but she's actually made of stardust. I believe it's based on a book by Neil Gaiman, which wouldn't surprise me because Neil Gaiman. But yeah, I don't even think Olivia is like human or even like a werewolf or vampire. I think she's like literally like a celestial being that is trapped in this plane. Like she doesn't make sense to me.
That honestly, yeah.
Only slightly evil. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
She has a few oddities up her sleeve. I feel like we're gonna get some answers as closer as, because clearly the whole what I thought was going to be the climax of the show was going to happen today. Like in today's episode, it got us hell of a lot closer. But I think some truth is gonna be uncovered about Olivia within
Well,
this season.
I'm going to hold my tongue because I'm about to say something that I can't say yet. So, the next scene is Roman and Peter are at the mill, the old steel mill, and they are like getting ready for Peter's about to transform and everything. And like, Peter's like, if I start from here, I'll be able to find a scent from the Vargo based on where he like left the dead girl's body. Um, and and Roman's like, am I going to be able to keep up with you? And he's like, no, don't follow me. Uh, and they have this kind of scene, and then Roman just says, do you love her? And Peter says, yeah. And Roman like kind yeah, but he like kind of accepts them as a couple. He like doesn't seem angry about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was one of those, like, obviously there's that creepy, like, incesty part to it. And I don't think that that's completely gone. But I think it's the same thing as, like, the reason why Roman doesn't let people get close to Shelley is he loves them so fiercely. He can't stand the idea of anybody not loving them as much as he does. And, like, and the thing that Shelley said a couple episodes ago about how Roman doesn't know how to love with no strings. He doesn't know how to love without also hating. And like his like protecting Letha got in the way of him seeing that Peter could actually love Letha.
Yeah. So maybe that coma bend was a really good idea for him.
Maybe. So then we go to Sheriff Sworn's house, and he's super jumpy, and he's just trying to like, they have like this really long, uncomfortable scene of him looking out all the windows and everything, and just like checking on the house.
Tension building.
Yeah. And then we go upstairs to the girls' room, and they're like shit talking people on Facebook and reading magazines and everything, and they're just like
watching Nickelback as well.
Well, as they should.
Hey, Nickelback's not that bad.
The only thing worse than Nickelback played backwards is Nickelback played forwards.
I really every single thing that you just said. On with the episode.
So yeah, they're just like chilling, but they're like so bored and they cannot handle being in their room. And my note for that scene is, why are the twins becoming my favorite characters? Like they just were like your average 15-year-old girls who are like stuck at home and they don't want to be, and then like their dad comes in to like check on them, and they were like, you know, mom sees everything you do for us, like she's watching, she knows. And they like have this like cute moment where they hug their dad and they ask him if they can have a gun in the bedroom if he has to, because he might have to like go out and be sheriff and everything. And he kind of looks at them funny. And then Alyssa's like, no, we don't need a gun. We can't have a gun. And they like just start giggling and yeah. And then we get to the scene that shocked me the most because it was the most out of character thing I've ever seen. Marie is sitting at her dining room table drinking
with her bare dogs hanging out.
Feet on her table, and I go, okay, Miss Control Freak put her bare feet on her dining room table?
Everything about that is wrong.
Yeah.
You eat off that. Take your nasty dogs and put them under the table where they belong. Especially since there's not socks. I hate feet. So like, I really don't like.
I don't care. Like, I'm a very anal person about some things, but when it comes to like stuff like that, like I eat in bed. I put my feet on the same table that I put my plates on. Like, I don't freak out about things like that. But we just watched her last episode scrub the same ring stain on a counter for 20 minutes. This woman does not put her feet on her dining room table.
No, she does not. And the even more out of character thing is that she held up a glass of wine for Norman to fill and didn't drink it herself and gave it to Norman instead.
And she was like, everything is better now because you're here and Letha's safe and we can all be at home like a family, and she's really lucky to have you as a father. And I was like, okay. But he asked where Letha was, and she said she's in the kitchen. So he goes to talk to Letha in the kitchen. He's like, why don't you stay down and hang out with me and your mom? We love the company. And Letha straight up goes, you mean you love the buffer?
He just said, let me call you out real quick, Dad.
And then they have a really sweet like father-daughter moment that like I teared up a little bit because I made me miss my dad. But she was like, I used to think that there wasn't any problem that you couldn't solve. And he was like, I'm sorry that I have to be a part of this mythic cycle where I will inevitably disappoint you. And she was like, you could never. And it was just really sweet, like knowing your dad isn't perfect. Like when you as a teenager like have that realization that your dad isn't the perfect person you like made him out to be. And like sadly not everyone has that kind of relationship with their dad, but like you know my dad, like
yeah,
the first time there was ever something that my dad couldn't do for me, it was kind of like a oh what.
Yeah.
And so like that moment where it's just like him knowing that because he's human he's going to upset her, and her knowing that like yes but also doesn't change that you're still my hero kind of thing, like
Yeah, you're still human, but you're my human hero.
I just want to hug my dad.
Oh my god, we're gonna hang up this call. You're like, excuse me, I'm gonna go call my dad for 2 hours.
Yeah, no I'm not because I'm gonna go to bed, um but then he's like, will you at least like, she's like, I'm gonna go upstairs because I'm not feeling like myself. And oh sorry, I just looked at my notes. I had one note about one of the weird things Marie said before she sent him Norman into the kitchen. She said that Letha's acting like a spongy cantaloupe. It's like, what does that even mean?
You know what? I am mentally my brain is a spongy cantaloupe.
I'm gonna start using that as like an insult for everyone. Like, oh, they're such a spongy cantaloupe. And
that's what we call our fan base. Hello, our spongy cantaloupes. Welcome back to another episode of Different Aliens.
So Norman's like, hey, like if you won't stay down and make pasta with me, will you at least like watch a terrible movie with me later? And she says yes. Then we go back to the mill, and Roman decides to run after
Peter.
Peter. And my note says, yo, Peter straight up said, don't follow me. So he's running.
Roman to listen at all.
No.
Exactly.
So like Roman follows Peter, and then he's like talking to Wolf Peter, and obviously Peter as a wolf is not responding, but like he's acknowledging, and like they're kind of having a conversation. It was kind of sweet actually. Like
he's responding with like growls and stuff.
Yeah, not sweet like aw, but like sweet like dope. Like you could see in the effects of the wolf like an actual like recognition.
Yeah.
And then
Oscar decided to bark right outside my bedroom door, so sorry to everybody who's listening.
I'm also sorry because from basically here on out, I don't have a lot of nice things to say
Yeah.
about any single character in this show. Because then Peter picks up the scent of the Vargolf and is running through the mill. And suddenly, we find out that up in the rafters of the mill, hiding out like a Call of Duty sniper, is the devil herself, is Clementine Chasseur, who shoots a ketamine dart
Into Peter. And you want to know what's even worse? We had to hear the most tragic yelp noise I think I've ever heard in TV.
Oh my god, it was so bad. That was pretty good recreation there. But yeah, so then Roman is like, absolutely not. Like, he's freaking out. He's like, you don't know what you did. Like, it wasn't Peter. It wasn't Peter. Like, you can't hurt him. It wasn't him. And Chester's like, how do you know it wasn't him? And he's like, I was with him the whole time last time. And she's like, you're a damn liar. I can tell. Because you always get a weird tremble in your voice when you're lying. Which is factual. He cannot lie for anything.
I think that's why Olivia made that thing about saying that you not talking means you can never lie to me. Because,
right, because like,
what was I here going? He lies to anyone.
Yeah. So he's like, if you hurt him, I will kill you. I will find you. Like, this is the last thing you want to do. Like, don't hurt him. And she's like, she knows something because she like is like, do not attempt to make eye contact with me. Mm-hmm. She knows about his weird roofy eyes. And so she's like, free. So like they're basically like threatening each other. And she eventually gets him to retreat, like to go back to his car. So we get a pull away shot, obviously, of Roman leaving the scene. And in the pull away shot, we see that hiding in the shadows, watching this entire encounter, was Olivia. And I was like, yo.
Olivia really said, you may not need me, but I know you do.
She was not having that. No. Which was the first time that I was ever glad that she was sneaking around doing some weird shit. Because I was so upset after that scene and I didn't know what to do. And I was like, well, like, Peter can't die, but like, at this point, like, Peter's gonna die. Like, I don't know what's going on. And then I was like, oh, thank God, Olivia's there. And then I was like, oh my God, I just said, thank God, Olivia's there.
Now, while this stuff is happening at the mill and Chasseur's twiddle-dee effing around with the wrong werewolf.
We're not there yet.
Never mind. Right. That's right.
We get a short flash to Shelley, and she's writing an email, and she's like, I just have to write because I'm having so many feelings. I like don't know what to do, but I can't write to Norman anymore. So my question is, who is she writing to? Don't know.
Would it be maybe Price?
Yeah, like that's the only thing I can think is that it would be Price. But then that's a very short flash of Shelley, and then we're back to the mill, and basically we flashed away long enough that they didn't have to show Chasseur carrying the wolf body to her truck because that would have been a bitch to try to CGI. Yep. So they show Chasseur with the wolf already in her Fish and Wildlife truck, and she calls the priest and is like, hey, it's done, like I've got him. He's and the priest is very adamant that she does not kill Peter. She brings him to the church, which I hated. And I was like, yo, this priest, again, just keeps getting sketchier. I was like, why does he want him alive? Mm-hmm. And then Olivia emerges from the shadows. And she is like, you made some big mistakes. Step one, you're trespassing on my property. And this is another weird, cryptic 14th century castle BS that Olivia says is, where I come from, you don't hunt on the ground of your betters. Which is basically like, I grew up in a feudal castle system. But she goes, step 2, or problem number 2, you threatened to kill my son. Probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So, and then Olivia's like, you think that you know what you're doing. You think you're so smart. You think you're working for God. But that necklace you're wearing, is it from a saint of a different order? Saint Jude. Which, Saint Jude is the patron. This is the most ironic thing in the world, and it actually breaks my heart, but Saint Jude is the patron saint of lost causes.
Mm-hmm.
St. Jude is also the name of the Children's Research Hospital.
Oh, that's... You couldn't have named it like...
Right, like any other saint.
Any other saint. You said, the saint of lost causes, that'll give children hope. That is so sad.
So she's talking about how like St. Jude is not the saint of the order, blah, blah, blah. And, because Olivia got off the phone with Chester got off the phone with the priest who told her not to kill Peter, but she was like, I'm going to at least save one of us from these effed up people, and was going to kill Peter anyway. And Olivia was obviously not having that. So Chester pulls a gun on Olivia, and Olivia just, in her Olivia fashion, continues to just talk shit. And then the gun goes off.
Because we don't see where it's aimed, but one can only presume in Olivia's actual face.
Yeah, no. They cut to black fairly quickly, but unless there was some real weird voodoo magic that happened, Chester just shot Olivia in the face.
Yeah.
And I wrote, oh, damn.
I literally wrote, this bitch just shot Olivia in the face with like 16 question marks afterwards.
And that's why I was talking about the thing when I said earlier I wanted to say something but I couldn't say it. Like all this stuff about her being like a billion years old and like immortal, and like there's no way that worked.
But she's not gonna look normal after she got shot in the face. I don't care what.
We don't see her again for the rest of the episode. I have no idea what happened. Like, I genuinely have no idea. I'm very stressed out about it. I didn't think I would care if anything happened to Olivia, but I'm very stressed out.
Well, clearly, when we get to the end, we'll understand that maybe we kind of will know what happened to Olivia, but it's never.
I don't know.
It's just, I don't. So now is when I was saying this before, to transition perfectly, because it would have transitioned perfectly, but I'm an idiot. While this stuff is going on, and Clementine has been chasing down the wrong wolf for this whole entire series, we go over to Sheriff Sworn's house.
And Sheriff Sworn is trying to figure out, like, he's hearing noises, he's doing his job, he's checking around outside, but he's like super jumpy and way too scared. But like, instead of like, what I think would be the best thing would just be
lock the doors and stay inside.
Well, lock the doors, stay inside, but like go upstairs, stay with your children.
Yes.
Be in the physical same room as them. Look at them with your eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a sheriff. So he's his sheriff thing. And the girls are upstairs and they call Christina about 8 million times and she has not yet answered her phone. And they're like, dude, we know you're not doing anything else. You're sitting at a mental hospital by yourself. Why are you not answering the phone? So then they just decide to entertain themselves by having like a dance party. Duh. What else do you do when you're 15 and trapped at home?
with strobe lights. Like, mind you, they said we're gonna pretend we're in an actual club.
Yeah, they put like the strobes on. They got their cute little glitter headbands on. They're like they're all about this.
They're like, we're teenagers in the mid 2000s. Glitter.
They were teenagers in the 2010s, first of all.
That's the 2010s, yeah.
And then I can't even talk about it. Like I've literally my notes just say devastation. Like it's underlined like 8. I don't even know if you can see. It's underlined like 8 times. I was devastated.
I'll take the reins on this one because I want to talk a lot about what we see. So, Sheriff Warren is currently outside in the shed, like nailing up some boards for some reason, which I really can't understand why he would be doing that in the shed. Not like anyone's sitting out there, but that's beside the point. So then he's like looking around, and then we see a POV perspective of as if someone is in the house. And this POV perspective goes all the way upstairs. But it
now,
also,
mind you, if you watch the show with credits or with captions, during this whole POV, it says growling on the screen. So there's no doubt about what this is.
And also, in case you would watch it without subtitles, the camera, like the POV, it's looking like if it was like from like a dog's POV, not a person's POV. Because you're like, when it's walking up the stairs, like to go to the girls' room, it's like looking at like the stairs and part of the wall, not as to where the human eye would be looking. So it's like you can tell just from the camera work that we're not dealing with a person. We're dealing with an animal. Oh, lovely. Well, thanks, mailman. Make my dog go nuts. Anyway, so as what I can only assume that you are all assuming right now, goes up the stairs, and one of the twins, I'm not sure which one it was, notices the Vargulf and screams. And with that, we get very jumpy cuts, which I honestly kind of like how they did it, with the strobe light going on and the music. You see blood splattering, the girls screaming. Like, it was honestly one of the most like you don't see a lot of the body gore. You
don't ever see the animal.
You never see the animal, and you don't see any of the body gore that is happening. So like you will see it, but not at this moment. And then Sheriff Warren finally hears the guttural screams that are coming from his house from his daughters, and he runs inside. And from there, it stops, and it shows afterwards when people are coming in to take care of everything and take pictures.
And it shows him like
standing at the doorway
on the ground when he finds them.
And this is when we see the special effects aspect, and honestly, probably some of the best acting that this secondary actor, like in the series, like secondary, not actor, character, put on. Probably one of the best performances for an absolutely traumatizing scene, because I was like, oh my god, what would I do? So his one daughter, her guts are like ripped out, and he's like in such desperation. He puts his hands around her guts and like tries to
put them back in her body.
He's crying, and he looks over and notices his one daughter is still breathing. Ugh. He goes over to like pick her up and talk to her, and she's just making like noises of like blood.
There's too much blood in her throat for her to even say anything.
And then she ends up passing away, like dying in his hands, and he loses his mind. I
lost my mind. Like, well, because you guys, I literally just said it earlier in the notes like that. At that point in the show, the twins have become my favorite characters. Like, Tom was my saving grace last week. Like, I've been talking for weeks about how he's just like the most normal character on the show. And like, if you're not watching the show along with us, you have to watch this scene because it is just like she said, the acting is amazing, and like the pain, I just
Like the fact that he went and like the thing that got me was him like moving her organs and trying to push them back
like
inside of her.
as if like if he could just make it not real.
Yeah, and that's what really is like he is at the point where he lost his wife and his 2 daughters,
And like earlier in the episode, it showed him like sitting at a table staring at the wedding picture of him and his wife, like after the thing his girl said about like her watching them. Sorry,
don't apologize, our viewers like it.
I cried so hard I sneezed. But like no, it just
it was definitely probably one of the best scenes, I think. I shouldn't say so far because there have been some other pretty good scenes, but this definitely goes on like top 3 throughout the whole.
And the other thing is, this is the first death on the show of a character you care about.
Yeah.
Like other deaths have happened, other bad things have happened, but this is the first time that they've built up a relationship with the characters that die.
Yeah.
And I knew it, like I called it last week, somebody was going to die. I didn't think it was going to be them.
Yep. Yeah.
And then Tom is just like not okay for the whole rest of the episode. Like he was outside with the rest of the like police force, and they're trying to like get him to tell them what happened so that they have like some idea of what to go on, because like this is still happening. And then the paramedics or coroner or whoever bring the bodies out on a stretcher, and he like tries to like run after them, like he can somehow like bring them back, and he just like still covered in their blood like just collapses in his lawn. And I just,
could you imagine him having to go clean up their room?
He's never gonna walk back in that house. Like, I mean, think about it. This is like going to be a personal story about our family. After our grandpa died, our grandma could not go in the room in the house that he died in for like ever. Like, I don't know if she ever really went back in that room.
That's the only weird thing, is because after he did, I spent a lot of time in there.
Well, I mean, I lived there after he died and had to use the computer, so I did as well. But like, and that was, he died of natural causes. Just like, could you imagine? Because now his wife and his kids are gone, and what happened to those girls? Like, he's never gonna walk back in that house.
That would be terrible.
And can you imagine the guilt like that he's gonna be thinking about? Like
the guilt.
Like, they asked for a gun. What if he'd given them a gun?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Sorry, my internet connection is wonderful. Yeah, no, like I was saying, like, what if he had given them a gun? What if he had gone to the room instead of going upstairs? Like, or like instead of going outside? Like, he's never gonna be okay.
I know. That's terrible.
Like, that is. I also. There's one more scene, and I want to talk about that quick because then I want to move on to our end stuff, because my predictions, I've already told Monica that my predictions are aggressive. So the last scene is these 2 little boys walking through the woods to get to school, and the younger one goes into the creek, and his brother is like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, there's a microscope down here. And I was like, oh no.
Can I just say, when I saw this, I'm like, this is going to be another little kid finding a dead body in the middle of the woods.
I thought so too. I thought there was going to be a dead body, but then there wasn't. There was just
one.
all of all of Clementine's files, all of her pictures, everything, her briefcases, all her science stuff is just like poured out into this creek. And I was like, what is all Clem's stuff doing? And then on a bridge above the creek is her truck, where there is blood on the door of the back part, and there is no sign of her or Peter or Olivia. And the boys are trying to like see what's in the truck, and they go to open the door of the truck, and the alarm goes off, and that's the end of the episode.
Yep.
So like the cliffhangers that they left us on, we have no idea what happened to Olivia, Peter,
No idea what happened to time or Peter.
those three. And then there's also obviously like we still don't have the answer for the bar golf. So this was the first episode, I think, out of all 10 that I struggled to stop it and not immediately start watching the next episode.
Yeah. And see, I have a feeling, this is for like predictions. I have a feeling for at least the possibility of what had happened and what could possibly be in the next episode. I think, like I said, we haven't seen Price in a bit. I feel like Olivia let Price know, I'm going to the god, because Price knows, okay, listen here, computer. I think Price knows just as much as Olivia knows about things and people being certain things. So I think she told Johan to almost be a backup for her being a backup for Peter and Roman. I think Johan kind of took care of Clementine, but I don't know in what way. I don't know if he killed her. I don't think he killed her. But I also think he just let Peter go at the same time.
Maybe. My prediction, this is very aggressive. My notes about my prediction are very aggressive. Christina is the Vargulf, and she killed the twins.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking that as well.
Like, I think it was like because she was thinking about them, so she went there, like not like a choice, because obviously she has no idea what she's doing. But my notes say, Christina's not answering her phone. I bet she wolfed out. I freaking bet. This is devastation. I quit. Fuck everything. If it was Christina, I will set something on fire.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was. I have said since the beginning, she is not right. She is not right. She's not normal. There's something up with her.
No.
I'm telling you, I think.
You thought this bitch was crazy before. What if she killed her best friends?
I hate her character even more now. Die. Burn her at the stake. Rip her face off. Freaking do what they did in Twilight to Caius and just off with that, like rip his head off. Like, I don't like Christina. I want her to die. Not the actress, just the character.
I was gonna say, Freya's such a sweetheart.
Well, yes, but I just hate her character.
I'm very aggressively angry about the twins dying. Like, to the point where it has emotionally drained me. I don't know if I can even continue this topic.
Well, instead of thinking about them dying, do you want to talk about who we want to punch in the face and who's our saving grace?
Yeah, who I want to punch in the face is not really the best answer, but like I'm so angry at everyone in this episode that like I picked the person who I think is the most in need of just like a solid
WAP.
knuckle to the jaw. And that is Mr. Priestman.
Mr. Priestman.
Oh, wait. We forgot the very last scene. After the car alarm goes off, we get a scene of Michael standing on the rocks waiting for Clementine, and she did not show up.
Yes.
Okay. Forgot about that. But yeah, I feel like Clementine is not actually a horrible person. Like obviously she's doing horrible things, but like the more we learn about her and like her past and her family, I think she's not actually a horrible person. And I think she's like sucked into a cult with Stockholm syndrome. And I would like to punch Mr. Priestman in the face. And I feel like if he got knocked out, that would fix all of the Clementine problems. And at this point, I'm so aggressively angry at Christina based on a theory that's not real, so I can't really punch her for something that I'm not sure is true.
Yeah.
So I have to punch Mr. Priestman.
No, I still want to punch Clementine.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like, you make a very fair point, but like, she is also granted, if it's the Stockholm syndrome with this weird church, she doesn't really have the power to walk away. But like, Peter literally was out here saying, like, I will help you. Just make sure Letha doesn't die. And the one promise she made to him, she
that
was
no
so
one else would die. And guess what? It
she wasn't
didn't work.
because she was so focused on trying to track down Peter instead of doing what she was supposed to do.
Well,
And what was
and speaking of guilt, after the twins died, now Norman's gonna have this horrible guilt. Also,
he said he prayed that it wasn't Letha. If it could have been anyone else but Letha, and it ended up being the sheriff.
and he and Tom are such good friends that like his knowing that the first time he has prayed to God forever ended up with one of his closest friends losing both of his daughters. Like Norman's gonna be fucked up now too. Oh, yeah, Clementine made big old promises that she could not keep, and now my girls are dead.
Does it surprise you? It's never like she could keep any of her promises anyway. Now on to something more lighthearted. The Saving Grace.
Well, just because I really need to give him a hug. Tom is my saving grace still. But
yeah,
also, in terms of surprisingly doing good things that I did not expect and like making me have a total 180 on their character, Olivia is my other saving grace because she like saved the day this episode in ways that I never would have saw coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like I said, I've never been grateful that she showed up for anything before ever, and I really was this time.
My saving grace was Tom as well, and also Shelley, because with how heavy this episode was, the moment between her and Roman, like their moments together normally like help me like look at past all like the crap, because I'm like, it may have been like a small 2-second scene that's not going to hold any weight in the grand scheme of things, but it's a small 2-second scene that can make you forget about all the absolute terrible, whacked up, messed up shit that is going on in this whole series.
That's true. This episode was really heavy.
And so I think their little moment of him being like, I'll be good. Like, don't you worry. Like, him, like,
especially, like, for me, because, like, I truly am a daddy's girl, like, to the ends of the earth. And everybody knows that about me, that, like, my dad is my person. And, like, all the stuff with the twins and Tom, and then with Norman and Letha, and just, like,
just want to give your dad a hug.
Yeah, this is real heavy for me. Like, and especially, like, I know we've talked about before that, like, we're on different sides of the planet and everything, and I'm in Thailand, but, like, so that means I haven't seen my family in about a year. I was supposed to go home in July, but COVID, and also next month, like 2 weeks from now, I was supposed to be meeting my dad in Japan, and like it's both of our, like my mom and dad and I were all going to go to Japan, and it was like all of our dreams to like, it's the number one place we all want to travel. Like the number one place we all want to travel is Japan. And like I've been feeling really emotional about like missing my parents in general lately, and like this episode was like more than I could handle.
You all know what you're doing as soon as the call is over with, talking to your dad for 2 hours.
No, maybe when I wake up in the morning, but like I'm gonna cry and go to bed.
I feel that. But nonetheless, I really do think this episode was definitely something to celebrate in with, technicality wise and storytelling wise.
Yeah.
But that's something to celebrate in the world of Hemlock Grove wise. There was a lot of sadness, a lot of sorrow, a lot of loss,
Yeah.
a lot of messed up shit. But
Now
we're talking about Hemlock Grove, so
there's 3 episodes left in the season. And then Monica and I have decided that like between seasons, we're not gonna jump like straight in from episode 13 to season 2, episode 1. We're gonna take a week to have like a season recap episode. And one of the things we're gonna do in that is we're gonna each pick like our top 3 episodes of the season, like, and why. And I have a feeling this one will definitely make
both of
the
us.
list. Yeah. Unless, of course, the next 3 are like mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
But
also, you can cut like this part of me asking you out. Did you want to talk about the thing afterwards, or do you still want to wait?
wait, what day does this episode come out? Sorry, I don't know what I'm talking.
So it will come out next week.
Which,
so it'll be coming out the 27th, I believe.
okay, yeah, that's early enough. So we are also, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna finish season 1, have our season 1 recap episode, and then we're gonna do this in general just to like give ourselves a like brain break from the shows. After each like season
or show,
each season recap show, or like at the end we'll do a season 3 and then a series recap show. We're gonna do bonus episodes where we will pick like a movie or something topically relevant depending on when these fall in the timeline, and somehow magically, without any planning whatsoever, because I promise this was not planned based on when it was not planned when I published this. Like, I just got the podcast up as soon as I was like capable of doing it. Our bonus episode is going to fall on being released on November 1st, morning of November 1st, so Halloween weekend. So we will be doing a movie review of
Halloween,
which Monica is incredibly excited for, and I am incredibly not.
I am so excited. Buckle up, get some popcorn, and get ready to sit and listen to me just rant.
I've never seen Halloween. I'm not, like we said before, like at the beginning, she's much more into horror and I'm more into sci-fi. Like, I do like your typical teen supernatural drama shit, but like I'm not a big horror movie person. I like psychological thrillers more than your classic horror type story. And usually when I watch scary movies, I don't sleep for a month after. So we'll see how this goes.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be exciting. So mark it down in your calendars, November 1st. We will be talking about Halloween, and I cannot wait. I've been so excited. I can't wait to film the episode. And Mary Kate, I think we should dress up for the episode.
Oh, dear God.
It's only human natural.
You also have to realize, no, never mind. We wouldn't be filming it on Halloween. We'd be filming it before. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Speaking of, we're releasing this, but also, like, I don't know how our season 2 filming schedule is going to start, because it would be requiring me to be filming the episode on the night of Halloween.
Yeah.
And,
that's not going to I don't think that's going to happen.
Party person. But I can't guarantee that I'm going to be sitting at home by myself on Halloween night.
Yeah, same here, broski.
Yeah, but yours would be at 9 in the morning. I don't want to hear it.
Right in the afternoon.
All right, this is nonsense. I need to go cry and call my dad. So, we will talk to you
next week. All right. Bye.